Hey there, and welcome to Ryan's tutorial about creating architectural lighting and power floor plans. In this tutorial, we're going to go over the technicalities of creating this type of architectural document and all along give design tips and tricks, best practices for lighting and power placement in a project. So before we get started, just a word about what is architectural lighting and power floor plan in the first place. This is a document that's meant to bring all stakeholders together across one document where all the information about your lighting and power is conveyed clearly. So for installers on site, builders, electricians, for your client, everyone should be able to read this document and understand what's the fixtures that you plan to use in your project, where exactly they're meant to be. So I'm just going to zoom in to give you a sneak peek of what you will achieve by the end of this tutorial, which is a fully fleshed architectural drawing of your lighting. We're going to talk about how to design this, how to convey the information clearly. So let's dive in. And what I'm going to do now is move from my paper canvas, where I have all the different layouts that I'm going to then print as an architectural document set, to my model canvas, where I'm going to actually draw and have all my information and edit the floor plans. I'm going to go to the layer panel on the top left and move from paper canvas to model canvas. So as you can see in the model space, I have the actual floor plan and drawing. This means that all of the different drawings that I did that you saw in the previous paper model live on one place, stacked on top of the other. And I organize them by using the layer tool. This way I can hide, lock, and unlock the different layers of information in my model. For example, if I want to hide the furniture, if I want to hide the plumbing fixtures, casework, of course also walls, in this case I also have shadows. So everything is living in a different layer. That way I can then create different types of floor plans in my architectural drawing layouts. So the first thing to consider is what you need to be seen while you're drawing an electrical and power floor plan. And one of the very important things to show is your furniture. And the reason is that you want to plan your lighting and your socket switches to be coordinated with the way that your user is going to use the space. And the next step is to create a layer dedicated to lighting and power. So I'm going to go to the plus button and create a new layer and call it lighting and electric. Now, I want you to take note that some projects that are more extensive than this housing one may need to be split. So you can have one lighting floor plan and one electric floor plan. Depends on the amount of information you need to convey on each one. So now that I've created a new layer, you can see this block tick that's also indicating that it's the active layer, meaning anything I draw right now would be placed on this layer and associated with it. So that's a good start. And then you should know that you can always create layers within layers in Rayon. And this is super helpful, especially for this type of floor plans, where we're going to have a lot of different types of information. So I'm going to go ahead right now and start with creating another layer. I'll call it background. And I'm going to place that within the lighting fixture layer. So it's going to be what we call a nested layer. And starting to draw on the background layer, what I want to do is kind of fade out all this furniture. The idea is that we want to see it in really light gray. So the focus is on the lighting and power and not on the floor plan. And we could also do this by changing the style of all these blocks, but there's a walk around that I like to use, and we're going to use it today. And it's simply placing polylines with white fill and opacity. So what I want to do first is lock the furniture floor plan. So you can see once I lock it, then I'm not able to select anything on there anymore. I'll also lock the wall and openings one. There we go. So that's step one. Step two is super simple. I'm just going to start off with the zone tool because it's going to give me a really fast zone. For example, if I click on this room, you can see it automatically generates a surface with a tag and square meter. In this case, I do not need those. And let me just quickly place zones all through my project. You can see that I'm using the enter tool, and that's just to repeat the last command that I did in Rayon. So very fast way to place zones all over. And the next thing I want to do is select all of these and then give them white fill with opacity. So I'm going to select one and then go for select similar. Let's go for same style. And then I'm going to go over to the panel property. and introduce you to our styles. So basically here you can change the fill, the line stroke, many different things. You can add hatches, textures, line weight. And what we're going to do now is first create a style to all these elements by clicking on the plus button. Once I create a style, I'm going to name it. So let's do background lighting. And I'm going to kill the stroke. Don't need that. For solid, I'm going to go for white. And then we're going to increase the opacity level on this. So as you can see, I'll just zoom in. It was pretty low. And this is actually, I want it to be, let's say 80 should be fine, or maybe 75. And this is really, so we have a hint showing us where the furniture is, but it's not stealing our focus. I'll also just grab these tags. I'm going to click on the right click button and select similar. I'm going to select this time the same type and then kill those. And the last thing I'm going to do is lock this background layer. So notice that once a layer is active, you can't lock it. I'm going to need to switch the active layer to lock this one. All right, step 1 is just to prepare a floor plan, and we've done that. Step 2 is to introduce into our drawing a legend with the different fixtures that we want to place on our floor plan. So for that, I'm going to go to the block library in Rayon. Our block library contains thousands of different blocks you can utilize. We have different furniture blocks with different views, so front, top, side views for sections and elevations, and also symbol blocks, so legends, annotations. You can either browse the block library or just search in the library, so legend, and then you can simply drag and drop your legend onto the canvas. I'm going to populate the floor plan with the symbols from this legend that indicate on different lighting types and then different sockets and switches. Let's review these quickly. So you can see that I have recessed ceiling light, recessed ceiling spotlights, suspended light pendants, in-ground lights, floor mounted. And then we have wall, pendant, and mounted lights, up and down lights. We have LED lights. So there's plenty more, but just so you know, this is a sufficient beginning to the different types of light that you're gonna want to use in your different projects. Typically, you would have ambient light, which is kind of general light, then accent light, which can be typically like these up and down lights, and then task lights, just the different typologies that you can use across your floor plan. Then we have different sockets. Here we're going to use a regular socket, a waterproof socket, typical for kitchens and bathrooms, and then a socket outlet for telecom. So this is for TV, internet, and such. Again, this can be elaborated more or less depending on the type of project you're doing. As for switches, it's very straightforward. There are 3 types of switches here. So a simple on-off switch, double or one-off double switch, which contains 2 different switches, and a 3-way switch controls the same lighting fixtures from different places across your floor plan. So the next thing I'm going to do is bring in all these different symbols as independent blocks and not as part of a legend. They live within the block library, and when I write their name, I can just summon them and then drag and drop them on my canvas. And I just want to place all of those here so it's really comfortable to use. So now that we have our lighting legend and the different lighting symbols, we're ready to start designing our space. So I want to zoom in and just take a quick look at this place. We have this one big open space that we're going to need to light in a very creative way. We have different use cases here and different atmospheres we may want to convey. And then just noticing the other rooms we have here. So 3 bedrooms, a few bathrooms. We have this office space, garage, and laundry room. Start by thinking about the ambient light. So the ambient light is kind of the general light that you would place throughout your floor plan. So typically what I'm going to do, just zoom in and start selecting the blocks for the ambient light. I'm going to go for the recessed ceiling light for ambient. It's very kind of basic, essential. I'm going to copy this one and start spreading it out. Now, the first spread out of these lights can be rather intuitive, so I don't have to decide the exact dimension at the first go. And then once we populate the floor plan with our lighting, we're going to go more in depth and talk about the precise dimensions we need between different lighting fixtures, between the light to the wall, and so on and so forth. The one thing that I will say as I start populating this floor plan is that there are different methods for lighting. And one of the things that is commonly done is just kind of placing a lighting fixture in the middle of the room. I normally tend to avoid that, thinking of the person within the room and what are they going to feel. So, for example, if I place a lighting fixture in the center of this room, it's above the bed, the person laying in the bed trying to read, for example, or do any other thing is kind of flashed by the light. So what I tend to do in these types of rooms is set them to the corner of the bedroom. Then this light also spreads into the closet. So the person using this bedroom has a nicer atmosphere. Plus, we're also going to place some lighting next to the bed. So that will be a good opportunity for spreading the light, having it not all shed in the corner of the room, but having a more homogeneous feel. All right, now that we placed some ambient light around the space, let's also use task lights. These are lights that are meant for when you're doing tasks, like when you're cooking in the kitchen, working in your workspace. For this one, I'm going to choose to get started the recessed ceiling spotlights and place some of those above the kitchen counter. So the same idea with sinks in the restroom apply also in the kitchen. I'm placing 2 spotlights around the kitchen sink. What I also want to do is for the top cabinetry of the kitchen, I want to place a LED light behind with a warm light. All of the lights that I place usually have dimmer options. This really helps control the atmosphere that you're creating. And then sometimes you may want to, sit in the kitchen here, but you're not cooking. Maybe you're reading or doing something else and you want a softer type of light. So this is one way to achieve different types of lighting. And the one thing that I want to discuss now is, again, the concept of layering. This is also how we're going to make sure that our lighting corresponds with our RCP, so our recessed ceiling plan. I'm going to go to the layer panel and turn that on here on our RCP. And in this case, we have a high ceiling with beams, and we want to coordinate the lighting fixtures with these beams. So the logic here would be just have some sort of grid that either is between the beams or on the beams for everything to be coordinated seamlessly. We want to know already in the construction phase where our lighting is going to end up, so all the wiring can be achieved on the get-go. Otherwise, you'd have exposed wiring, and nobody wants that. So in this occasion, I'm just going to zoom in and see where we place these lighting and just align them with the beam. These symbols don't represent the size of the lighting, rather where the lighting spot will be recessed from. I want to grab this track spotlight, so you can see their name here, so track ceiling spotlights. And what I'm going to do is for this living room, I want to place these track lights across or along the beams, and I want to add some spotlights to them. So first of all, I want to edit this block. To do that, I'm going to double click it, and then I'm going to add some spots and edit this track light so I can make it longer. And this is things, of course, you would want to specify with the supplier for your lighting to understand, what's the exact dimensions, spacing, and such. But let's say this is my intent, and now that I'm done editing this block, I want to copy it and then that's across on this beam. I always want to make sure where I'm placing my lighting in regards to the general space. So I have here this door opening, and what I really want to do is centralize these track lights with the door. So you see here, Ryan's going to help me centralize it. But another thing helpful for other people looking at it is adding grid lines. So I want to grab a line, and then I'm just going to draw a grid from the middle of this door. I want to make it dashed, and let's do it orange to pop out a bit more. So I'm going to the style panel, clicking on the orange, clicking on the dashed. So this is just an indication for whoever's reading my floor plan to realize that these lights are centralized. So that's key. This is a wall that typically would probably be used for art. So as you can see, the rest of the walls are occupied with a door, some windows, and this is a nice kind of entrance wall. So with the assumption that there will be some artwork here, I also want to add either an up or down light. So I'm going to go for a down light in this case, add it here, and there you go. So this would be spotting an art piece, or what we call accent light, so accentuating it. What I'm going to do now is continue adding some lights onto this floor plan. Let's do this fast and then move on to the next step. All right, so I've added more lighting fixtures onto this floor plan, and as you can see, I've also added grids to make sure that all the lighting fixtures are nice and centralized. And the next thing we want to do is prepare this floor plan to be executed. So we want to put actual dimensions, heights, make sure the installation of the lighting fixtures are exactly the way we want them. And one thing to consider when working on an architectural project, there are different codes, rules, and regulations according to the country that you're in, and also different installation requirements according to the supplier of each fixture. So to ensure everything is done professionally and by the book, you want to have a general notice, which is a rule of thumb about how the electrician and other stakeholders use this floor plan. So for that, I'm just going to jump back to the paper space where I have all my different drafts and zoom into the final layout that I'm going to then print and send to other stakeholders. And you'll notice here that we always have project notes, benchmark rules of thumb about the dimensions you need between different lighting fixtures. We're also going to be adding sockets and switches. So the go-to height for switches, the different dimensions you'd need between sockets to, for example, water sources, something that's really important for kitchens and bathrooms. I have all this information written down, and this is the baseline that construction people working on the project will go according to. Then when I'm back to my model and I want to start adding information, I don't have to overpopulate it with information, and I can only refer to things that are outside of my base rules. So we'll talk about it more as we go. And let's start right now by adding dimensions to our floor plan. And I want to start adding dimensions that are going to be shown only on the lighting floor plan. So if you go to the layer panel, and you'll notice how much we use this here, I have already a layer called annotations. And when I turn it on, you'll notice I have here annotations for the construction floor plan. So openings, interior wall-to-wall dimensions. These are going to be a different document. And on our document, we want to create a new layer for specific lighting dimensions. Create a new one. And let's call this lighting dims. And make sure that it's nested within our general lighting plan. So I'm going to place that right here. Now there's the black tick, it's activated, and we can start drawing our dimensions on it. The next thing to draw dimensions is simply to go to the bottom toolbar to our dimension tool. And a few things to note about this. So I'll just zoom in here so you can see it clearly. Once you click on the dimension command, you'll see in the tagline below, you just have to start mentioning the dimensions you want to place. And then you see here that you're getting this default of style. And let's create a different style for the dimensions on our floor plan. So I'm going to click the dimensions, and like any other element, we can go to its style property. I want to make this with an opacity, so way lighter, because I don't want it to be overwhelming when someone's trying to read our floor plan. So yes, 40, or let's do 50 just for the hell of it. I can also change other things here, just so you know, like the font I'm using. This one is important, so it's the text size, and also line weight. We can make it dashed. We can choose different arrowheads for our dimensions, so you can really customize it as you wish. And then the one more important thing to know or to notice is the units that we're using. So in my case, I'm using centimeters, but I want to demonstrate the fact that you can always change your units from the bottom toolbar. You'll find the area unit and length unit. So if you want to work with other units like meters, you see it changes, or millimeters. So I'm going to stick to the centimeters. And once you choose your unit, you can also choose its precision by clicking on these three dots. So let's say you want to have a more precise dimension, or you're fine with a one figure. You can also choose if you want to have the suffix turned on and off. And this applies also to area units, which is zones and surfaces. All right, so now that we've clarified that, I'm gonna delete this one that we used for a demonstration. Oh, sorry, before I delete it, I want to turn it into a style. So I'm gonna click on this and name it dim style. There you go. And the beauty about these styles is that now I can apply one style to all the dimensions. And if I decide later on that I want to change the color, if I want to edit the text size or anything, it's going to happen at once to all my dimensions that I'm going to use right now. So let's start placing dimensions on our lighting floor plans. It's not just about placing technically the dimension, but it's about thinking, what is the constructor on site or electrician going to need to understand where exactly I want this lighting fixture to be installed? Other than dimensions for construction, where you have to have a comprehensive wall-to-wall opening dimension for each component. For the lighting, I just want to give a horizontal and vertical standpoint. So let's take the example of this lighting fixture that we placed offsetted to the corner of this room. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the line tool to aid me, and I'm going to place it next to the wall and then offset it to the dimension that I want my lighting fixture to be, then delete it. So I've placed it. I'm going to click on the shortcut 00 for offset, select my line, and then I'm just going to select the distance I want this wall fixture to be. So I'm going to go for 80 centimeter from this wall for this axis. And then I'm just going to place another line on this wall. Then I can just make sure that my lighting fixture is aligned, delete, and now add my dimension. I can grab the dimension tool, and as you can see here, there are a few functions for the dimension tool. So for its direction, and if you want it to be a single or chained dimension. When I select the chained option, it's just going to stay in the dimension command while I'm drawing. So I'm just going to go to the center of my lighting and then add this dimension here, and then I'll go for 80 as well. So this is enough information for the constructor or the electrician to install this lighting point. They have the 2x dimensions. You don't necessarily need to add a dimension that goes all the way to the wall across it. You can, but really up to you. If you do that, you always need to remember what the hierarchy of the dimensions are. And let's talk about an example. I want to place the dimensions location for these two lights next to the bed. And the most important thing for me is that they're centralized and spread equally for each side of the bed. So what I want to do to place my dimensions is select the midpoint of the bed, which is essentially the midpoint of this wall here. And then I want to specify the dimension I want to place them from. So let's say I want it to be 140 centimeters. So this is 1. Then instead of specifying the rest of the dimension from this wall to this one, I'm going to go for the same dimension on the other side. What I'm going to do is just leave these two dimensions. I'm not going to add this dimension here or this dimension there, just to make sure that the hierarchy of my dimensions are super clear. And my first priority is to have these centralized. All right, next up. So when we do place lighting fixtures in the middle of a room, you could also always place a grid to indicate the dimensions or the location. That should be clear enough. But of course, you can also add dimensions as needed. So let's do the 2-axis dimensions here. And lastly, you can do the same here for this lighting fixture. For the LED that I'm gonna place behind the mirror in the restroom, I will give a total wall line dimension. So let's do corner to beginning of light dimension. Then let's take the midpoint of this LED light. Ryan is going to help me with the snapping points to find the middle. So as you can see, there you go. All right, so that's basically the method I've used to place dimensions throughout my lighting floor plan. And the next thing I want to address is what happens when one of the dimensions of your objects isn't consistent with the note that we have on our general drawing. So I'm going to zoom into this pendant right here. I want to make sure on site that the pendant is installed in the height that I want it to be. So it's not necessarily a default pendant height. So I'm going to add a remark here. I'm going to grab the leader tool from down here. And basically, whenever I add a leader, I'm just going to press on the first point, which will generate my arrowhead. Let's zoom in for you to be able to see that. And then on the end of it, it's going to place my text. Here I can write, "Why to be coordinated on." In case I know the height is just a different height than the typical one, you can just add a text. So from the bottom toolbar, selecting a text. All right, so we've shown how to place dimensions, how to place leaders, extra text and tags to make this plan really readable. Next up is adding your sockets and your light switches. So looking at this floor plan, what you would do is strategize where are the most comfortable and usable places to add your light switches and which lighting fixtures you'd want them to control. As we mentioned, we have light switches that control one light. We have light switches that control a bunch of different lights. And also we have light switches that can control the same fixture from different areas of a floor plan. So what I'm going to do now is start populating this floor plan with switches. I'll take you through one of them and then not bore you with the rest, but let's go for this one. So this indicates a light switch that controls a light from two different areas of your floor plan. I'm going to click the shortcut CC for copy, and then let's just start, of course, with the entrance to the house and place the switch. As I mentioned before, these symbols can be resized. They don't represent the size of the actual switch. So let's place one of them here. We'll probably have a few here along the way, but let's start with this one. And then I'll copy this one again and place it on the other side of the house. So my rationale being that probably the person living in this house will want to be able to open and close all the different lights in the main living area from two different places. So when they walk into the house and then when they go to bed before walking into their bedroom. So that's just one example. And again, this is just what I'm going to repeat now with all the different switches. I'll select this one. This one is very straightforward for one light, probably the one that we're going to be using in bathrooms, for example. And again, resizing them. I can just resize all of them to avoid resizing each one. I can rotate them and such. And let's get back to this floor plan once I've populated it with all the switches. Added sockets and switches throughout the floor plan, and I want to show you how to indicate the circuits or wiring between switches to lighting fixtures. So let's zoom into the office space, then we'll do a bedroom. We have the switch and the different lighting fixtures in a room that it controls. I'm going to grab one of the drawing tools, so you can grab a curve if you want. I'm going to take the arc and just draw a line between the switch to the lighting fixtures. You can see I choose this dash line. And things here are pretty hectic, so a lot of information about the socket, the amount of sockets, the socket's dimension. So I'm trying to keep it as clean as possible. And this switch is going to turn on and off not only this light fixture, but also the one next to him. This is how I indicate that this switch controls both these lighting fixtures, and then the other switch can control this pendant. And then let's do the bedroom as well. You'll see that we have a single switch here for this lighting fixture. Let's indicate that. And then for the lights next to the bed, a few things. So as you can see, first of all, I've added a socket here and I've added the heights of the bedside lights and the sockets to indicate that it's under it. Also, the switch here controls the light. So it's this type of lighting fixture that has a switch embedded into it. What I do want to indicate is that that switch also controls the light in the other side of the bed. So I am gonna just stretch one line from this lighting fixture to this one. So I've created my lighting circuits and determined which switches will control which lighting fixtures. The idea here is this. First of all, I want to create lighting groups. So for people living in this house, I want them to be able to create different atmospheres. For example, sit in the living room with these lights on, but have these groups of the kitchen and dining room maybe off for a more like low-key environment. The more switches you have, the more costlier it may get. So this is a game of give and take. But basically, if we look through some of these switches, you can see that, for example, these switches control the kitchen lighting, and you can control separately the work lighting or the island lighting to create different atmospheres for when you're in the kitchen, and so on and so forth. So this just is kind of something that you would normally talk about with a client, right? Determine what's their needs, what's their budget, of course, and flesh out this kind of floor plan. So basically, we're done with creating the electric and lighting floor plan. We've added sockets, switches, lighting fixtures, dimensions, text and annotations. So we've conveyed a bunch of information here for anyone who needs it for installation on site. And before we finish up, I want to add another floor plan that indicates the actual fixtures that I'm selecting for this project and their locations. This is not a must, but it's something that I think clients find really enticing, and also for people installing on site. It's really nice to have a visual and not just a letter or text indicating which fixture goes where. So let's start doing that. So since I'm going to be adding images and text, I want to go, instead of my model canvas, to my paper canvas, since here is where I organize my layouts to be exported. And let's zoom in. You can see here our lighting and power fixture floor plan. And then I've created another sheet with a smaller scale, so 1:100 of the floor plan, less information. So you see only the fixture indications. And then I've tied between images of different fixtures I want embedded in my project to their location. It just makes it more readable. I have this legend here that can always be edited, of course. If you double click this document, you can then edit the text. You can add, the quantity. You can add many more information. So not just notes, but maybe cost, maybe supply time. So there's a bunch of other things to do here. And to make this even faster, maybe you want to check out our tutorial about tables that also helps automate some of this process. But basically what I want to show you now is just how to import your own image, add that information, and then let's export this. So once you've selected a fixture that you like, you can go to the main menu and then click on Import and select Image. You can then select the image of your lighting fixture. This is mine, and this will simply open on your canvas. You can scale it super simply and add it on your sheet. Once I did that, I'm just going to add a tag. And then I can copy that, zoom into my floor plan, and place the tag above the relevant space. So basically, these are the two sheets that we learned how to create today. So now that we've created these two sheets for electric and lighting floor plans, indicating the technical specifications and adding some images and information, we're ready to share our layouts with other stakeholders, clients, constructors. In Rayon, you can either do that by clicking the share button and then inviting other people to work in real time with you or just to view your model. So you can either invite another person as an editor, admin, or viewer to your floor plan. You can also just copy a public link and send that to him. So up to you. The other option is, of course, to export a PDF, DWG, or DXF file. For that, I'm going to go to the page panel on the right, add a new page on my canvas, and set it to scale. So I'm just going to select that. And as you can see, when I select a page, I'm going to be able to select its scale on this model. So it's paper size. This should be, 1:1, and then paper size, let's go for A3. I'm going to place my pages onto my layouts, just copied that page to create another one, and you can see that those automatically appear in my page panel. Of course, I can do this to my full extensive layout, and then I'm going to go to the export button and select between PNG to PDF. And my PDF was saved on my download folder. So as I can see, it's right here. And you can check out these two sheets we've just created. So that's it, everyone. In this tutorial, we went over how to create a lighting and electric fixture layout, giving some tips and tricks, showing how you can do it technically and aesthetically. And we'd love to hear your feedback. Let us know if this is how you create your drawings, and we can share your tips and tricks with our community. Also, make sure to check out the template below and to subscribe to our channel for more tutorials like this one. See you in the next drawing tutorial.